The rule is that you stand up so that the cameras can locate.
Hello.
Yeah.
Hi, good morning. It's Renee Volgera from Bloomberg News. Deputy Minister, I just want to make sure, do I understand you correctly that the department have also not been able to get a hold of this company that the interpreter says he's a member of? In other words, the department has not been able to confirm that this company actually exists.
Okay, thanks.
Ashlyn Lang from the Daily Telegraph. Can I firstly understand you say you're not the department responsible for this? Where is the department responsible for this and why aren't they briefing us? And secondly, could you just tell us what level of security clearance did this man have and what kind of background checks does that involve?
Okay. Is there any other question? Okay.
Hi, Greg Nicholson from the Daily Maverick. I think my question was covered by Aslan, but just following on from that, the department or government so far hasn't seemed to be taking responsibility for this issue, and yet we've heard claims that you respect the rights of the deaf community. But if no one's taking responsibility, how can you claim that?
Okay. Can I? Oh, there's a gentleman in front.
Hi, David Dolan from Reuters News. Firstly, I just wanted to ask if you could just, as much as possible, outline what kind of checks are done in the procurement process for the company itself. So not necessarily the individual, but why wasn't the company vetted? Because obviously the onus is on the government to do the proper procurement checks. And then secondly, there's been a lot of worldwide outrage amongst the deaf community, not just in South Africa, but in the UK, elsewhere. And if you could respond to that, and is the government at all embarrassed by this? Because certainly from where we're sitting, it does seem that it is rather embarrassing for SA.
Okay, can TM, you're able to come?
Sure. No, thank you very much for your questions. Maybe I need to just contextualize a few things before I answer your questions. The first one is, I'll take the last question to the first one. The embarrassment aspect. I'm not sure, unless if there's something that I'm missing. I don't think as a country we need to first jump and say we should be embarrassed. And I'm going to say this because I think it's important that we get a context of sign language. Sign language in this country has more than 100 dialects. It is not a language where we're not at the stage where we can stand like the Americans would and say, this is American Sign Language that gets taught in a school, that gets taught to a child in America. No. South African Sign Language will be taught in a school from 2014. We've just finalized the development of the curriculum. Over the years, who has been the custodian of sign language? Because I think that's important before we get to the embarrassment aspect. The issue of sign language in South Africa has always been about where you live, which school you've gone to, and which language you speak. And I think we need to all have that context. And that is why we start with the language. Now, South African Sign Language as a frame has just been finalized and being developed. And if a deaf child, whether you're born in a rural area somewhere, if you did not have the opportunity to go to school, you're born by hearing parents, you're going to develop your own language. If you have the opportunity to go to a school, you will be taught a language by a teacher, hopefully, that is trained in a particular dialect in that language. So that I thought I needed to put in context so that when we come to the aspect, are we embarrassed as a country? Firstly, I don't think it's the right choice of word. English is my 50th language. As a Motswana girl, I would not say the country is embarrassed because the country there might be a mistake where other people might not have understood the interpreter and that might not have picked up. But I don't think he was just picked up from the street. He comes from a school for the deaf. Just like me, I've gone to a school for the deaf and the blind, and we could have conversations with deaf people, and whoever that saw him being able to communicate with his deaf peers, with his deaf friends, understood that he can speak sign language. But can we all speak any language? No. So that is where the story starts, is he could not translate. He could speak sign language with his peers, but he is not a professional sign language interpreter. That we want to put on the table. Secondly, was he? No, he wasn't, because as a person with a disability coming from a mixed school, we have the honor to picking up some sign language. He is Xhosa speaking as his first language, so the language also for you to be able to translate to sign language for deaf people to follow you, you must understand the language that is being spoken in the podium, and the English was a bit too much for him. So yes, he could not translate from English to sign language. But that is one of the challenges. This other challenge is, it is the same as the accredited professional interpreter, because that one was meant for the physical deaf people at the stadium, and there were two additional, what we call international, because they also accredited at different levels. Those were called international sign language interpreters that was allocated to the SABC to ensure that every deaf person sitting at every corner is able to pick up. So we had one South African sign language as in the frame that we are trying to finalize it as government, and an international sign language interpreter. So as a country, we can't be told we are embarrassed because there were sign language interpreters. The camera picked up the interpreter that was interpreting for the deaf people that were physically at the stadium. Did a mistake happen? Yes. He became overwhelmed. He did not use the normal signs. We accept all that. A mistake happened. He was not able to translate from English to Xhosa, then to sign language. But it's the same. The international interpreter, when Cyril Ramaphosa switched and spoke to Zulu, she could not translate either. She had to fold her hand because she could not understand the language that was spoken to enable her to translate to sign language. And I'm using these examples because I want to deal with the issue of, are we embarrassed as a country? And I don't think we should be. Because as a country, a mistake happened while we were trying. And yes, the South Africans who are deaf, in terms of, do we protect the rights of deaf people? Yes, we do. And we try every day to improve. We're not where we are supposed to be, but we make the mistakes trying. How many deaf people around the world, whether it's in London, whether it's in America, that has the honor of having sign language when their presidents speak? It's only here. Do they watch the news signing? No, they get it here. So I don't think it will be accurate for me to stand here and say that South Africa should be embarrassed. It is a beginning to recognize that in the process and in the speed of the events, a mistake happened and an interpreter. And it's not only the mistake of the language. The rule says there's supposed to be 2 sign language interpreters for concentration levels. That's why every 20 minutes they must switch. He was alone. He might have started well, and then in the middle he became tired and lost concentration. But that does not make him a bad sign language interpreter, because for those deaf people that taught him language, they could still understand him. And it's not every deaf person that could understand the SABC interpreters, and that is our everyday struggle as we move towards improving sign language. Which department is responsible and why are they not here to brief you? As I said at the beginning, this particular state funeral, it's an interdepartmental responsibility. And as government, we are trying to establish what happened with the sign language interpreter at the stadium, because the other sign language interpreters at the SABC were sorted. And the department that is responsible for disability, that has to deal with issues of sign language and the issues of deaf people, I am here, and there isn't another one that could brief you. With regards to the company, we did track down the owners of the company, Ms. Tobeka Xasa and Buhle Ngomezulu, and they are indeed, they vanished. We've managed to get hold of them, and then we spoke to them wanting some answers, and they vanished into thin air, because it's a clear indication that over the years they have managed to get away with this. They have been providing substandard sign language interpreting services to as many of their clients, and nobody has picked up, and it can only be Juri Madiba, which we are grateful that we've managed to be able to pick that up. With regards to security clearance of the sign language interpreter, in terms of security clearance, that is a near process. We are requesting to check his vetting, but normally when you do provide a service at a particular level, you will be vetted. And as you would see, he had his accreditation, so he didn't just walk through. But as I said, with regards to the actual procurement and the actual, yes, here is his security clearance, that we will provide. But with regards to the services, the company, South African Interpreters, has been in existence for a while, and we did track down the owners, and it looks like they have been cheating all along. One of what assisted us as a department to be able to pick up that they are cheating. The services of a sign language interpreter is at between 1,300 and 1,700 rand an hour, but it's 800 rand a day. So if somebody that does not know anything about sign language, that's sitting as a clerk in a procurement, is looking at the cheapest quote without actually understanding what is the level. But lastly, also to say that like any language, sign language was recognized and is recognized as a first language for deaf people in this country, and that the onus has been placed on the state in 1996, on the same day when President Mandela signed the Constitution, that we developed the language. And I guess for me, is that we have been developing the language, but at a very slow pace. And as government, we have lifted our feet, and we are finalizing it to be a 12th official language that is like being finalized. And what happened and the outcry for us, it's an important outcry, because at last, all of you, ladies and gentlemen, are beginning to value and appreciate what ordinary deaf people go through every single day. When you report and they can't hear you, when you report and they can't see you. So once again, President Mandela lived beyond his grave to actually remind all of us that as we communicate and as we speak, there are those that we exclude every single day. And this experience and the outcry at the memorial service of those that were at the stadium, and not those that were at home, because they were covered by the SABC, those that might not have followed everything. But that is an experience of every deaf person around the world, when they have to go to a doctor, when they have to buy something at the shop, when they try to do a transaction at the bank, but none of it makes it right. So we are honored and grateful as a department that the campaign that we started on the 3rd of November to highlight the importance of sign language has finally gotten us where President Mandela, in the virtues and what he lived for, is here as a reminder that we need to up our sleeves collectively and not invest in finding fault, but actually begin to appreciate the challenges deaf people experience every single day as they try to communicate. Thank you very much.
Well, the GCIS media briefing, they're talking to us about how it was possible that the sign language interpreter at the memorial, was not competent.
I thought the minister dealt with the issue very well. I think we need to maintain context in the whole thing, Mahendra. Mistakes will happen. Yes, she's mentioned that. She's put a very good explanation forward. The most important thing is this week, these 10 days, it's about celebrating the life and legacy of Nelson Mandela, the greatest statesman this world has ever seen. It is not about focusing the spotlight on the little idiosyncrasies that go wrong. If we do that, then we're missing the point of the week.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, let's now cross over